Hello everybody, this is going to be a very interesting video, and this whole week is going to be full of interesting videos because I'm going to attempt fruitarianism. That means only eating fruit for 7 days. Now before I jump into just fruitarianism, because I have no idea what I'm doing, I wanted to actually talk to people who do. So I did an interview with the channel Sweet Natural Living. And yeah, here it is. Check out their YouTube channel as well, but I'm going to put links in the description and everything like that. So enjoy the interview. Well, hey guys. So if you could just introduce yourselves, tell everybody a little bit about your channel for a minute and all that good stuff, so we get a little introduction.
Sure. My name is Mikkel.
I'm Mads.
And we have a channel on YouTube called Sweet Natural Living, and we've been doing that for about 4 years now.
Isn't it more?
5 years maybe, even. Just traveling around the world. Well, initially it was traveling around the world, eating lots of different fruits. Mostly focused on, we were really into the fruit thing from a kind of nutritional point of view or a health point of view, but we were also fascinated about exotic fruits, and we wanted to try like real tropical fruits and stuff like that, durian, etc. And so yeah, we started traveling around, especially in Southeast Asia, Australia, Costa Rica, that sort of thing. And since then we've been pretty much eating a fruit-based diet, mostly fruit. And now we live in Norway, where we're originally from. And we just work with our channel, make videos about fruit-based diet, fruit-based nutrition, health in general, as well as some traveling videos sometimes. And I also coach people, helping them get healthier or try a fruit-based diet or get into running or fitness in general.
So is that the kind of like the mission for your channel, is to give people advice and having this more of like a natural, healthful way of living?
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, even from the start, we were just kind of almost just halfway chronicling, can you say that? Making videos about our travels, but also making a lot of videos to kind of promote the health aspect of fruit, because we're really passionate about kind of bringing awareness to people around the world that fruit can actually be a health food rather than just like a snack. It's something you can make a whole meal of if you want. So it's always been a part of us.
Yeah, it's been the health focus for us a lot, but since we have been, when we did realize that, maybe humans maybe should be eating fruit or whatever, and we realized that we should be in the tropics to get the best fruit, and that's why we started traveling. And so, our channel is sort of a mix between a fruit channel and halfway mixed between like a health and also travel channel. So there's a lot of different types of videos on our channel, but general, the sort of connection, whatever, the main thing is basically fruit, health, and living a happy, healthful life.
Right. That's what I like about you guys, is that I think we're both doing something that is similar, that it's fruit. We've got the similarity of having fruit linking us together, but we're going in like different directions with it. And I think that's kind of amazing that with fruit you can go more towards focusing towards health, or for me where it's more of like a collection aspect or travel aspect of it. There's so much that you can talk about with fruit. So it's interesting seeing you're doing something similar, but with a different kind of perspective as you're doing it.
Exactly.
I guess like my first question that comes to mind, I think that people watching will probably wonder, like, how difficult is it for you being in Norway when you say that tropical fruits are probably the best way to have a fruit-based diet?
Yeah. Well, at the moment we've found sort of a way to live in Norway, like a compromise, I guess, in terms of diet. So it's not difficult for us at this point. But what initially prompted us to go traveling was that we started this, we found the raw food diet, and we wanted to try, we were sort of inspired by the idea that all animals in nature eat a raw food diet. They don't cook their food, they don't prepare their food in any way. and so the same must be true for humans. And then we sort of started eating raw foods, and then we quickly realized that, hey, the only raw food that is really appealing to us in its natural state without any processing is fruit. You know, all the other foods either have to be cooked or seasoned or somehow processed to be delicious, whereas fruit is like extremely delicious without any processing. So that sort of made us, as I said, wanted to go traveling, and then we did, and then that's when we realized, okay, tropical fruit is where it's at, and as long as we were in tropics, it was pretty easy to eat all fruit. We did eat like 100% fruitarian diet for a few years, literally just fruit, like 100%, like no greens, no cooked foods, no nothing, just like, I guess, very occasionally some greens or some nuts or whatever, but most of the time just like only fruit.
Yeah.
And then every time we came back to Norway, we would sort of be faced with reality again, the reality of being in a temperate climate where the fruit sucks, really. I mean, the quality of fruit here is, for the most part, pretty bad, although here and there you can find some good stuff depending on the season, etc. But so yeah, I guess in a nutshell, it is difficult in Norway if you want to eat an all fruit diet, but if you just want to eat a healthy diet and do the best you can and include a lot of fruit in your diet, that's still fairly easy.
I see. And well, thankfully you have like supermarkets and people are importing fruit, so you can actually you can get like a durian in Norway.
Yeah, you can get them, but they're like really expensive. I think it was $22 or something per kilo.
Oh gosh.
To get them here.
Yeah.
So it's not really something we do, but it happens.
Sometimes, I mean, we do buy it sometimes, you know, when we want a treat or whatever, but it's not going to be a staple or anything like that. But, you know, depending on the season, you could find good quality fruit from Europe, for example. Like in the summer, like it's pretty much ending now, but in the summer you can get good peaches. You can get, so from Italy and Spain, etc., and you can get some
melons that can be like insanely good.
Yeah. And then of course, then you have the durian and the Pakistani mangoes. There are some Pakistani mangoes that are flown in from Pakistan. Same with the durian, flown in from Thailand. That's why it's so expensive, obviously.
Yeah. And good.
But that's really good.
Yeah, like it's important to know that the shorter the travel time for the fruit, usually the better it is. Like that's why the mangoes and stuff are so good here when they're imported through airplane, because you can pick them at a lot riper stage.
Yeah.
And it makes a huge difference in terms of taste, but also in terms of nutrition. Like they get to hang on the tree longer, so they are more nutritious in general.
Yeah. Ultimately, if there is one key to being fruitarian, if there's one key to making it work very easily, then it's being close to the source where it's grown, like living in the tropics. Because, you know, anything is possible. You can do anything if you want to. So even in Norway, there are people, and we've done it at times, that eat a completely fruitarian diet, even here in Norway. And I guess they sort of have to accept lower quality fruit to do that. But if they're intent on doing it for the sake of doing it, then of course you can do it. But it's somewhat of an effort. Whereas when you're in the tropics, close to the source where it's grown, I've always found it to be effortless. Like it's like I don't want anything else. Like the mangoes, the durian, the cempedak, whatever it is, all the different amazing fruits that you can get in the tropics. They're so good that I don't even want to waste a single meal eating anything but fruit. So it's sort of effortless when you're in the tropics. As I'm sure you've sort of
absolutely sure. You go to those markets and they're just like hanging with fruit, and it's cheap. Like it's a place where you could. I think if you were to try to do that anywhere else, I can get tropical fruit here. I can get durians as well, but as you said, they're expensive. Like I could probably have a lot of the things that I would find in the tropics, but it's going to cost me like $300 a day to do it. And that's kind of like as I mentioned to you guys, I'm going to be doing a week as a fruitarian, and I think like it's interesting to see that you're doing it in Norway, because I'll be doing it in New York City. It's not going to come as easily as if I were in Kuala Lumpur, where I could just hop over to a market and find all of that for $2. So it's good to know that although challenging, it can be still done.
Yeah.
But I think maybe let's go to like extreme basics here. Can you define what it means to be a fruitarian, and just like just basic a few basic words? Like, what would be the restrictions for someone being a fruitarian? What can you eat? When can't you eat?
Yeah, it all depends very much on the definition. A lot of people have different definitions, and they get angry when someone else defines it in a different way, etc. But I guess in the strictest form of the word fruitarian, like in the strictest way, which is really the only pure, true fruitarian, if you will, is going to be someone who eats strictly fruit. Which means, and although of course grains are botanically speaking a fruit, we're not really talking about fruit in a botanical sense, but more in a culinary sense. So we're dealing with those things that we normally call fruits, including the vegetable fruits like tomatoes and avocados, which of course are called vegetables culinarily speaking, but they are indeed fruits. So it would be someone who eats strictly fruit, no grains, no legumes, no vegetables, no greens, no nuts, no seeds, no processed foods, nothing packaged, like literally just mangoes and bananas and avocados and durian and tomatoes and all kinds of fruits. So that would be the strictest sort of definition.
That's the extreme version. But more practical, and what most people seem to do, I guess, would be to include green leafy vegetables, maybe vegetables in general, like zucchini and these things. They are fruits, of course, but they're more kind of vegetable-y. And also stuff like coconuts. I love coconuts, but some people say, but it's nuts, so we don't include that. But practically speaking, it's more of a fruit-based approach.
Yeah, you could say like the way we define our approach at this point is not a fruitarian diet, but a fruit-based diet. So at the moment we are also eating some cooked foods like cooked sweet potatoes, and we are experimenting with at times we experiment also with some supplements and different things. So we're looking at it from a very much of a health perspective and trying to optimize our nutritional strategy. And in lack of that high quality fruit that we will get in the tropics, we try to sort of make up for that in various ways. So we tend to call our approach a fruit-based diet, which means that the majority of our calories, or at least half of our calories, are coming from fruit, fresh fruit. Typically a lot of bananas for us.
I see, and that's why I chose to talk to you guys, by the way, because I think if you're going to be like super dogmatic about it and just be like fruit, and not look at the possibility that might not be the best situation for you, I think is dangerous. I think like being a fruitarian, I'm still learning, obviously, but I think it can be done safely. But if you have to be very careful, and it seems like you're being careful, and where you are right now, it's fruit alone is not, although I'm sure it's possible, is not really perfect for you. It's not for where you are right now. And I like
kind of accurate, yeah.
Yeah, I like that you're willing to you flex on that to what is most beneficial for you, what's healthiest for you.
Yeah, it also depends very much for us on the quality of fruit in terms of enjoyment. Like, to eat the fruit that we find here is just not very enjoyable. So that's also part of why we make certain compromises. And nutritionally speaking, I do believe that if you are able to source high quality fruit, tropical fruit, then it's not as difficult to make it work as it might seem. And it's not by any stretch of the imagination dangerous to do an all fruit diet. Indeed, I would argue that almost anything but a fruit diet is riskier in some respects. I mean, but there are certain aspects of a fruit diet that doesn't necessarily have to do with the fruit diet, ideally speaking, but it has to do with the quality of the fruit that you are eating, and it also has to do with the fact that if you're looking at it from a evolutionary point of view or a biological point of view, our closest relatives, the bonobo and the chimpanzee, etc., they eat a fruit diet, but they are also eating a lot of greens, and they are also eating some insects and termites, etc. So the question is, what is a human being's optimal diet? And that's not necessarily very easy to answer, but I'm pretty certain at this point that it's not exclusively fruit. It might be some termites as part of that. It might be some greens and also some fruits, especially tropical fruits, differ quite radically in their nutritional composition as compared to something like apples, temperate fruits. So if you're eating apples, that would be a completely different diet than if you're eating jackfruit and mangoes and papaya. They are more nutritionally adequate in terms of human nutrition. So again, if you're able to find that quality fruit, then there might just be some small tweaks that you need to do in terms of optimizing that diet. But if you're far away from that situation, you have to rely on a lot of bananas only, like we are. Like bananas are really the only fruit that's very consistently good here in Norway. Then you might have to do some more tweaks, and that's when it becomes necessary to sort of know a little bit more about nutrition, etc.
Okay, and because you're eating more like a chimpanzee or bonobo. Do they eat seeds though? Because that was one thing that kind of like the seed thing is the one thing that I always kind of like question. I feel like seeds they have a lot of protein in them. They have a lot of nutrition in them. I mean, well, some of them will kill you, but like some of them are really nutrient dense. So I feel like not eating seeds seems like a little questionable to me. Is there a good reason why someone should not eat seeds?
Well, I don't know, to be honest. It's first off, it's very rare to really find them naturally, you could say. I mean, if we're looking back at our evolution, there are kind of few seeds and nuts that are really delicious, and that's something we naturally would want to eat, I think.
Yeah, if you consider things like durian and jackfruit, typical like jungle fruits that are ancient and that would be eaten by us, their seeds aren't really that. We don't really want to eat those, right? That's not really something that humans find delicious.
Unless you cook them.
What?
Unless you cook them.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Which is, again, then you're stepping away from the sort of core of the biological niche, since it has to be raw. Like all animals, they eat their food raw, and so the nuts and seeds that we're eating culturally now as humans, almonds and cashew nuts and sunflower seeds, etc., they are not really that available in that form in the wild, and if they were, they would just be for a small season. And then nutritionally speaking, they are higher in protein, but they're also much higher in fat. And if you look at it as a nutrition per gram point of view, then yeah, they're more they're more nutrient dense than fruit. But if you're looking at it from a nutrients per calorie point of view, then it's more equal, because fruit has a lot of water in it. So if you're looking at, I don't know, like amount of iron per calorie of papaya versus per calorie of almonds, then you get a better sort of way to look at them instead of looking at it per gram, since papayas are so high in water.
But of course, also when we're stepping into this kind of slightly outside the what is perfectly natural, perhaps, then we should also be looking at science and what science tells us, I think. And in that case, there are a few things. I mean, nuts and seeds can be very high in certain nutrients, which may be beneficial in some situations. And one potential problem I see is that they often have a lot of phytic acid, which is basically a anti-nutrient, which makes you absorb less of certain nutrients than if you were not eating those. So it might be a compromise sometimes.
Yeah, it's basically fruit is the most agreeable and benign foods of all foods, because almost all other food they have these anti-nutrients and these sort of factors that sort of, like even plants and leaves and stuff, they have chemicals in them to avoid being eaten. Like they try to survive. Like a plant doesn't want to get eaten, but a fruit is actually sort of, it's made to be eaten. It's in order to spread the seeds, right? It's part of the reproductive strategy of the plant to spread its seed through this delicious fruit, which is eaten by, for example, primates, humans being a primate. And so they're naturally very low in these anti-nutrients, and so yeah. But and again, this is very like little tweaking stuff. Like the truth is that in a very general sense, I would say that anyone who just starts eating lots of fruit and nuts and seeds, if they want, in moderation, and leaves and greens, and even to the point where they're including cooked vegetables and stuff, that's fine, and that can be really, really good. And if you're looking at a cooked sweet potato, for example, nutritionally speaking, it's very similar to a raw fruit, like a mango or something. So
yeah, I think that's very good to hear that you look at the fruitarian diet and you're like, yeah, like if you don't want to be fruitarian, that's fine, because you guys are currently not even fruitarian, but you appreciate how fruitarianism can be good, like if you were in the right situation. So I like that you're not very religious on it, like some people can be. So let me look at my little thing here. Oh, you mentioned like worms. Like if you pick up like a fruit and there might be worms in in the wild, animals would eat that worm. Do you eat the worm? Like
I tend to avoid the worms.
I hate when I open a fruit and it's full of worms. Now, honestly, I think the only insect that I've enjoyed eating is termites. I tried that in Costa Rica, eating termites, like living termites, and it was very delicious. And that's also the preferred insect for most of the primates. When it comes to the little worms, I don't know if chimpanzees and bonobos avoid them, but maybe they do. I would. What?
I doubt they avoid it.
Yeah, I doubt it too. But I would guess that the more intelligent the primate, the more it's going to be.
Perhaps.
It's going to start avoiding the worms. I would say, because
maybe. I mean,
or maybe you start trying them and they like they're tasty, and then you start eating them. Although I tried them, they're usually not that tasty. I mean, when you do eat into a sort of rotten fruit with worms in it, you taste that sort of almost like acid, like it's sort of like
yeah,
spit it out.
It doesn't taste like you should be eating it.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I get on my channel every now and then. I'll have a fruit that has a worm in it. I'm like, but the comments are like, eat the worm, it's full of protein, what are you doing? And I think a lot of that is coming from because we attract different people. I think a lot of people who like do foraging or more like fruit for survival, that worm is full of protein, but I can't do it.
No, I think we don't need to eat them as a, we have plenty of other options, I think. And also, a lot of, another type of fruitarian, you could say, is the one who's doing it for ethical reasons, purely. And they might even recognize the fact that other foods might be even a healthy option, but they choose to avoid it for ethical reasons. And that's, for example, like the termites. I've never tried termites, and ethically I'm kind of against eating them, because I'd rather have a plant-based option if I could.
Yeah, as a vegan, right?
As
like,
a vegan.
As a vegan, from a vegan perspective, not wanting to eat animals, basically. And the ethical fruitarian doesn't want to kill anything, so they don't want to eat lettuce either. Because if you eat lettuce, you'll kill the plant, obviously. And so they're only eating fruit from that perspective. And I feel like all different perspectives are valid because people are in different types of journeys. But for us, we're not on that ethical fruitarian trip, but we're more on a health trip. But we do have ethical considerations when it comes to animal foods in general, like as vegans. But yeah.
So so you're a little divided on that. So like you would find it okay for like ethically for humans to eat insects?
I'm on the fence. I don't know. I mean, I feel like if we are supposed to eat them from a biological point of view, like if they are ideal for us nutritionally, which I at the moment think they are, I think they have some valuable nutrients that's missing in fruit. Then I would say that it is ethically appropriate for us to eat them because it's part of the natural cycle. But would I do it? I don't know. It is a valid point that if we can find an option, then you're sacrificing possibly a little bit of health in order to be ethically, not eating termites. So I don't know. It's a kind of a complex issue, but we're probably not gonna be ever having to consider it that much because we're not gonna get termites here in Norway, and so we're just gonna do our best. And at the moment, we're living in Norway, so I don't think I would. Unless I'm suddenly moving to the tropics and living in the jungle and like having a jungle right behind my house, then I don't know if that's going to be an issue.
Sure, that's kind of like a separate separate world there. This is a kind of like one thing I'm still. You've answered like a little bit, but if you can go a little bit more in detail, why would being a fruitarian be preferable to being a vegan?
From a health perspective, you mean, or?
Just in general. I think, well, you're coming from a health perspective, but like why would, for those who are choosing to be fruitarian, why would someone choose to be fruitarian opposed to vegan? Because I feel like, I feel like I would, if I was going to go like raw, I'd be kind of like wanting lettuce. I'd be wanting to eat like even like raw spinach or kale and stuff like that. What is the negative to eating leafy vegetables?
Well, that is another very complex question that I guess I can't really answer because I don't know. But there are different ways of looking at it, though. In basically, you can either look at it. Well, first of all, I would like to say that, anyone, if you're inspired about eating a fruitarian diet, then you're fine. Then you should eat a fruitarian diet. If you're inspired about the vegan diet, but the idea of a fruitarian diet isn't appealing, then go ahead and eat a vegan diet, right? Like it's not really. But there is whatever is optimal, and then there's everything else. And whatever is optimal from a health or nutritional point of view, we don't know, right? Like we have to think about it, we have to look at science, we have to look at evolution, we have to look at biology. There's a lot of different considerations to make in order to sort of figure out what the optimal diet is, and no one can really claim that they know what the optimal diet is, but we can guess. And so I would say that if someone chooses to eat a almost fruitarian diet over a normal vegan diet, the benefit would be that they will be closer to what is an optimal diet for humans, like our natural frugivorous diet. So they would get more of certain nutrients in a certain way that exists in fruit. And there will also be factors that maybe science or nutritional science haven't figured out yet. Things that are in fruit maybe that we don't know is there, that we're naturally adapted to getting on a regular basis.
But it should also be said that, depending on on what food you're actually eating, it's very easy to, have a fruitarian category and the normal vegan category. but they can be radically different in terms of micronutrients depending on what you're eating.
There's like 10 types, hundreds of different vegan diets, and they're all very different nutritionally. There's like a junk food vegan and there's like a health vegan. There's all kinds of different variations of how healthy that diet is based on the foods they're eating. And the same goes for a fruitarian, like you say. If someone eats like apples and tomatoes, strictly apples and tomatoes, they would be fruitarian. But technically speaking, but they would not be healthy.
Yeah, you could live on cooked potatoes alone, and you would be a cooked vegan, but it wouldn't necessarily be as healthy.
Well, although that would be pretty close to a pretty nice diet, I would say. A better example of a very unhealthy vegan diet would be your classic, typical, lots of junk food, oil, processed food kind of vegan, Basically just starts eating French fries and crisps and oil and refined foods. That's a vegan, but it's not necessarily healthy. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have someone eating whole food, plant-based diet, which is better. So
I like the argument that Oreos are vegan, and and people eat that out of ethics. I actually ethically will not eat Oreos because it has palm oil in it. And for me, palm oil is... I would probably sooner eat a chicken wing than I'd eat palm oil.
Yeah. There's so many levels to ethics. There's so many different nuances and subtleties that it's not black and white, right? So, so that's why I always say when people, ask what they should eat, how they should eat, I always tell them that they should be eating whatever they're inspired to eat, and I would recommend that it is a plant-based diet, mostly vegan, ideally 100% vegan, and the closer they can get to a sort of fruit-based diet where fruit forms the predominant calorie source, the better it is. And then there are small tweaks you can do, and lots of small tweaks, but in general, lots of fruit, lots of plant foods, high carbohydrate, low fat, probably, like not necessarily very low fat, but just like mostly carbohydrates in terms of macronutrient ratio. Then I think any combination of foods within that general category would be pretty good.
Yeah, and in general, eating varied.
Yeah.
Eating varied is a good way to ensure you're not necessarily low on a particular nutrient for a long time.
Yeah.
Not to say that it necessarily is needed.
Which is why it's so great if you're in the tropics, because there's so many fruits there. You could literally eat a different fruit every day, as you know very well. And if you do that, if you do eat lots of that variety, then you're really spreading your bets, so to speak, in terms of nutrition.
Yeah, of course. I think that's a good way to... I feel like I can ask you 1,000 more questions, but I feel like we should probably wrap up. So let me just ask you one more fun question. What is for the both of you, like, what is your favorite fruit that you've come across so far?
We like that question a lot. So,
there's so many different types of favorite fruit. It can be the best tasting. It can be the just generally your favorite. It can be the most nutritious. There's so many.
But let's say like just the all-time favorite, right? Like if the really the favorite.
No, it has to be durian.
Yeah, I have to agree. It has to be durian. Like if you're just saying one, if like it's the one single most amazing fruit, then I also feel like durian is definitely the answer. Yeah. But I do have some other fruits that are out there. Like if we are talking about taste, then that's where durian also actually reigns supreme, the king of fruit. But if we're dealing more with nutrition, then I tend to and overall enjoyment. Like if I had to live on one fruit for the rest of my life, I would not choose durian. Then I would choose mangoes. There's so much variety within the mangoes. They're so delicious. They're like very satisfying and somewhat calorie dense, yet still fairly hydrating and high water content. I think it would be overwhelming to do only durian. I mean, I know it would be overwhelming because we actually did an all durian diet for like, we have a video on our channel which is like a durinarian video basically. Mads did it hardcore, I did it not as hardcore as him, but we pretty much ate only durian for like 6 weeks.
Oh god, that's a lot of durian.
That is a lot of durian.
Yeah.
One meal a day.
1 meal a day durian, yeah.
Okay, and was that a pleasant experience for you? Did you get sick of it at the end?
Did not get sick of it. It was very pleasurable during the meal. I did one meal because it's the only way really to enjoy. I mean, when I want to eat durian, I want to eat like a huge meal.
Yeah. And a huge meal of durian is like, that's 2,500 calories. And if you're not super active, then that's pretty much your daily calorie need. So, a huge meal of durian will cover your calorie need. And just like Matt said, I was also not getting sick of it. It was just continually enjoyable. But I did notice some health effects. Like, I wasn't really feeling my absolute best, and I was craving mangoes, like something a little bit more juicy and juicy basically. So variety is better than just a single fruit for a long time, I think.
Absolutely. That's really interesting, though. Well, thank you so much, guys. Thanks for doing this interview with me. I think I have the information that I need now, which going into fruitarianism, I felt kind of lost, and I think this is exactly what I wanted to know, and I think the people watching at home are going to be fascinated too. So thanks again.
I'm glad to hear that. And if I could leave you with one like very practical tip for your fruitarian experiment, I would say that New York. I do know some fruitarians in New York, and my impression is that there is a little bit more variety there than maybe here in Norway. And I would just go to the markets and approach it as an animal, like you are an animal, like humans. We are animals. We have senses, and we're naturally adapted to eating fruit. So I would go to the market and I would just pick out whatever appeals to me the most. So whatever your favorite fruits are, or whatever fruit smells and looks the best right there and then, because they're maybe seasonal or they're maybe not coming from that far away. They have a good smell. They look ripe. If you just go by that sort of sensory input, and then the next step would be to buy a lot of whatever is good. So if you find some good stuff, buying a lot of it, and then eating until you're satisfied. That's pretty much the strategy.
Yeah. And to add to that, go heavy on the bananas. And mangoes and tomatoes make for a really good dinner meal.
Yeah, if you can even blend up mangoes and tomatoes and make a sauce over a salad if you want to include some greens. And if you don't,
soup or something.
Yeah, or a soup, or just basic, just eat mangoes and finish up with tomatoes and avocado maybe. I mean, there's tons of ways of doing it, but the reason is that go heavy on the bananas is because they are the most calorie dense, consistent fruit. So it's easy to get enough calories when you're including some bananas for lunch maybe.
Sure, and they're ubiquitous. You can find them even on the deli around the corner. I can get bananas. I'm not going to have to go to the Asian market for that or anything. So that's good to know that there's an easy source within grasp.
Exactly. We have a banana book if you're interested. I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you after the interview. We have a book about, like an ebook about how to eat bananas and how to ripen them, etc. So I'll send you that after.
Oh, I'll check it out. And again, tell everybody your website and your channel and everything, so in case they didn't check it out at the beginning of the video.
Yeah?
Yeah, you can basically just search for Sweet Natural Living on Google or YouTube. We have a website, sweetnaturalliving.com. The YouTube channel, we put out maybe a couple of videos a week.
Yeah, and on our website we have articles there, and we have a few ebooks. One about traveling for fruit, one about eating bananas. We have a few other ones coming up within the next year or so. And yeah, that's pretty much it, I think.
Yeah, FAQ, coaching, newsletter.
Yeah, we have a Facebook page as well, of course, Sweet Natural Living.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Yeah, Sweet Natural Living, it's all over the place.
Absolutely. All right, well, thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that interview, guys. I actually did an interview over on their channel as well. Yes, this is how collaborations work. It's a beautiful thing. So around me right now, there should be a link I don't know where. There should be a link somewhere to the video on their channel where they interviewed me about my fruit hunting experiences and all that. So go over there to check that out. And in the description below, I'll put a link as well. And yeah, I think that's about it. I'll see you next time. Bye.